I want to call back up to the rostrum our chairman, Dr. Scully, to present our 2023 Middendorf Pillar of Freedom honorees.
Mike certainly accepted the challenge. His guests today have given us hope, and you have given us hope as well. So I thank everybody in this room for all you do for the center. I thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I can't thank you enough. The history on the Middendorf Pillar of Freedom Awards, Ambassador Middendorf probably is one of Rhode Island's most accomplished citizens. President George H.W. Bush said of the former Secretary of Navy, "For those who believe in public service, Bill Middendorf's memoirs should be a must-read." There is probably no greater living Rhode Islander right now who is such a defender of freedom. He just celebrated his 99th birthday and lives in Little Compton, and that's the history behind this award. Before I introduce Frank and Liz Mauran, let me first acknowledge our previous Pillar of Freedom honorees. Our first winner, honored in 2017, is here with us today, Mr. Warren Galkin. Thank you. Warren received the award along with another great philanthropist and successful entrepreneur, his brother, his best friend, and his business partner, Bob Galkin, who sadly passed away in 2022. Thank you again. Our second winner, honored in 2018, is Dr. Daniel Harrop. Again, this event now is proudly named after him. He was also lost in the fall of last year. Once again, to a job well done. Thank you, Doc Harrop. Our third-year winners in 2019 were two conservative, brave lawmakers, two ladies who ranked the highest in the Rhode Island Senate and House on the Center's General Assembly scorecard by keeping their free market principles when it came to their actual votes on the floor in the General Assembly. They just didn't talk, they walked the walk. With us today, representing the great people of Charleston, Exeter, Hopkinton, Richmond, and West Greenwich, is Senator Elaine Morgan. Please take a bow. Not able to be with us today is Representative Sherry Roberts, who represented West Greenwich and Coventry and was also a recipient. So thank you very much. Now to our current 2023 honorees. This couple's amazing lineage and contributions to the society, they're actually detailed on the back of your banquet program. They are certainly numerous. But let me echo one point. Without the Morans, I can tell you as chairman, there would be no Ocean State Current right now, nor In the Dugout show, which platform was kind of manifested by their support. Not coincidentally, they will be interviewed in the Dugout with Sten because they helped form it. It is my great pleasure and honor to introduce you to our 2023 Middendorf Pillar of Freedom Award winners, Frank and Liz Mauran.
If you haven't had a chance to read their amazing story on the back of the program, please do. We'll be putting out a media release next week with the full details. Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. This was a tough act to follow coming up here.
Well, you are well deserving. Again, the story is incredible. Frank, let's start with you. The thing I find most intriguing, again, your roots to Rhode Island's founding, America's founding with the organizations you're involved with are amazing. But Frank, Roger Williams was originally buried in the backyard of the home you live in?
Yes.
Give us that backstory.
Well, the house that we live in was part of a Roger Williams' original lot in Providence. And when he died, he was buried there. And his grave was there for a couple of hundred years, I think, until sometime in the 19th century, and I'm not sure when. He was dug up, and what was left of him was moved to the northern burial ground. And then later, he was dug up again, so he wasn't really allowed to rest in peace. And they moved what was left of him into some sort of a crypt or a vault underneath the statue of Roger Williams that is now at Prospect Park. And where he was first buried is a defective pedestal from the arcade.
Wow. Liz, any ghosts back there?
Say that again?
Any ghosts back there in that backyard?
Ghosts. No, but we have frequent visitors from the National Park Service. The park rangers love to give a tour of that property.
Oh.
And lots of visitors come back in there.
Oh, so I imagine that home is on the historical list or whatever you call that?
Not yet.
No, not yet. No. Okay. Liz, you're involved. We're going to get to some of your national stuff in a second, but locally you're involved as a board member of the Rhode Island Zoological Society, the Mile of what?
Mile of History Association.
Which protects Benefit Street, the great historic Benefit Street. Tell us how you got involved in those and what some of your favorite accomplishments under your tutelage, if you would.
Well, two different stories, really.
Okay.
The Zoological Society board membership came about because I was filling a seat when Senator Link Chafee went to fill his father's term. And Stephanie had said to me, it will be 1 year. And I said, okay, I'll do it for 1 year, because I really wasn't a zoo person and I didn't understand the importance of what the zoo does. We have 850,000 visitors every year, so it's the top tourist attraction in the state. And we do a lot of international conservation work, so I'm now in my 22nd year.
Yeah. I think all my board members remember how they were just going to be on for 3-year terms, and now we're on 12, right, guys? So I kind of know how that goes. Once you get involved, you get involved. Frank, tell us about some of the other local, before we get into the Cincinnati thing, tell us about some of the local things you're involved in.
Well, locally, I've been on the board of the Nature Conservancy for a long time. Now, I know that probably causing some people's ears, eyes to roll. I've always been interested in land protection, and that's been my goal all along while I've been here in Rhode Island. The western part of the state is lovely. I don't want it to see it turned into parking lots and subdivisions and strip malls and things like that. And so I've always been interested in land protection.
It's a great balance we have to strike between conservationist and economic growth, right?
Yep. I've been involved, I guess you could say, the other thing, one of the nonprofits that I'm most proud of having served was on the board of my local camp. Now, it's not in Rhode Island, it was up in New Hampshire, but I was on the board of that for 15 long years. We struggled through chronic low enrollment, and with it a shortage of funds. And finally, we found the right guy to run the camp, and today the camp is thriving. So all of that heartache that we went through for 15 years, it was worth it.
Let's stay with you, Frank. The Chafees are relatives, the Lippitt's, the Metcalfs, the Ames, even Thomas Dorr.
This is true, and so is Samuel Gorton.
How's that for a family lineage right there, huh?
But I think Zach is it's all comes down through the Lippitt's.
Zach Chafee is here as well. Liz, your parents and grandparents and great-grandparents were involved in the founding of the New Hampshire Republican Party. So each talk about the influence in your life of having such prominent ancestors, if you would.
Well, I'll go first since I have the mic.
Yes.
I was very happy to see a fellow New Hampshireman here. I think in the 19th century, when my family were really involved in politics in New Hampshire, the Republican Party was very different. We were abolitionists, we were environmentalists, we were capitalists, we're still small government people, but the party has changed and evolved. And Mike earlier asked me the question whether of my parents' 6 children, all 6 were Republicans. But no, we're about half and half, and that's changed too.
Frank, we know there's some Democrats on your side of the family, Lincoln Chafee.
This is true.
Libertarians as well. All right, let's move on, because I think the most fascinating part is each of your organizations, involvement in organizations that literally go back to the founding of our nation and the American Revolution. Frank, you are a member of the Society of the Cincinnati, which is America's oldest patriotic organization. You are the Rhode Island representative. Tell us a little bit about that, how it all works, and what the original mission of that society was.
Well, the society was founded in 1783 in Newburgh, New York, at the end of the Revolution, and its purpose was to perpetuate the memory of the vast event, which was the winning of the American Revolution, to perpetuate the bonds of friendship amongst the officers, and finally to look after and take care of the families of the officers and their families who had fallen on hard times. Today, the last of those is really not part of what we do, but we do get together in Rhode Island, about twice a year, and at a national level twice a year, sometimes more often.
Now, current members are direct descendants from those officers in George Washington's army, right? We are all, when the society was first founded, it was, the officers of the army became members if they wanted to become them. Not all of them did. And then after that, it descended by primogeniture. And in the absence of a son, the line could pass through a daughter to a daughter's son, and in the absence of that, it could go to a collateral branch like a nephew or something like that. And who was your direct descendant or how do you ever say that, in Washington's army?
We actually have a term for that.
Okay.
It's called a propositus.
Oh.
And my propositus was a man named John Spur, he was originally from Massachusetts, and he was in the Boston Tea Party. And then after the Boston Tea Party, he moved to Rhode Island, probably because he was didn't want to take a chance on being arrested, and he joined I think the 1st Rhode Island Infantry Regiment, and then that regiment was later merged with the 6th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment, and that's where he finished out the war with the 6th Massachusetts. He was at the Battle of Bunker Hill. He was at the Siege of Boston. He fought in some of the battles around New York State. He was at the battles of Princeton and at Saratoga. I have his promotion to major, which was signed by John Hancock.
Wow. The same signature?
Oh,
Yeah.
it's the real McCoy.
And I should also say that there's chapter members in France, right? Because of
What's that?
There are chapter members in France.
Yeah.
France, yeah.
Oh, there are 14 societies, one for each of the original 13 colonies and one for France.
That's right. Because why am I blanking out the general's name from France? I'm blanking out the general's name from France. Help me.
Oh, well,
Lafayette. There we go. I was
Lafayette.
going to say La Fontaine, but I knew it was okay.
Well,
All right, let's go to Liz.
Rochambeau.
Let's go. Yeah, Rochambeau. Let's go to Liz. You are Rhode Island's representative to the Mount Vernon Ladies Society, which oversees Mount Vernon and Arlington, Virginia. My wife and I had the pleasure of being there, I don't know, about 6, 7 years ago. And I can remember choking up, standing in the bedroom where George Washington died, and then standing at a wrought iron gate in a sepulcher, I don't know what you call it, a tomb above ground, and the caskets of George and Martha were literally you could almost touch it. To have our nation's founder, the man who led to our independence, to be that close and experience that was really something else. What does it mean to you to be on that Ladies Society?
Well, if I could tell you a little bit about the Mount Vernon Ladies Association, it was founded in 1853 by a woman from South Carolina who saw that Mount Vernon, the house, was in disrepair. The Washington family could not keep it up. It was falling apart. And the Washington family had gone to the federal government and said, this is our most important leader. Can't you save the home in which he lived and died? And they said no. So Anne Pamela Cunningham went to the state of Virginia and said, can't you save this house? And the state of Virginia said no. Went to the county of Fairfax, no, 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 no. So Anne Pamela said, if the men of America will not save Mount Vernon, the women will. And she organized a group of women, mostly east of the Mississippi. But ever since then, we have owned and managed Mount Vernon. We are the most visited house in the country, over 1 million visitors every year. We have very active scholarly programs. And I think what inspires me there is something that David McCullough said when he opened our library 10 years ago. And I'll just remind you that we have never taken any money from any government.
Nor do we.
But David McCullough said Mount Vernon is the autobiography of Washington. So if you haven't seen it, please come see it. I'll meet you there if you want me to. We can have a Republican Party outing, and thank you.
I've just got one more question for Frank, and this is kind of musing, but again, read their amazing contributions in so many ways in philanthropy and civic engagement and entrepreneurial success. I mean, this really is an amazing couple, especially when you add in that lineage. What was that word again?
Propositus?
Propositus. I'm gonna have trouble remembering that one. All right, Frank, your family was also involved in ownership and management decades ago of the Providence Journal Bulletin.
Yes.
When it was sold, your family tried to purchase it, but it went out of state to a left-leaning concern and many others since then. You and I, in our lunches over the years, have mused. Let's just muse a little. How would Rhode Island be different if the Mauran family had maintained control to this day of the Providence Journal?
Well, first of all, it would have been the Metcalf family. It was my mother's family, and it's awfully hard to say, but some of the personnel choices that were made by the people who came after my uncle would probably have been different, and that might have changed the tone and the coverage of the paper, and to the extent that the paper really was influential in Rhode Island politics. You know, it might have made a difference.
You think they might have held a few lawmakers accountable, maybe? You think they might have held a few lawmakers accountable?
Yes, I think so, but who knows, really? That's my supposition, but I can't really say for sure.
The one thing we do know is that we're proud to have Frank and Liz as our winners this year. Frank and Elizabeth Mauran, congratulations.